Today is all about the Antares Society group coaching for men. And you're probably wondering, where did this stem from? If you didn't know, I was a police officer for 8 years, and part of my job was working crime scene. And a little disclaimer here, you may not like what you hear next, but there were circumstances that I was witness to that left me feeling like I needed to gain more information in order to navigate it a little bit better. And not only navigate that, but to navigate myself in that process. Because you get exposed to things that you don't know what to do with. And so, what usually happens when that happens? We store it and we ignore it. And then over time, it continues to build and comes out in ways that are often unexpected. And it's that unexpected part that really causes a ton of distress and pain in our lives, but also in the lives of the people that love us the most. And in order to gain access to that information and to utilize that information for myself to grow, expand, and become different, I started diving into personal development. I went to therapy. I've now cultivated friendships with therapists out in the world who are professionals. You may have seen some of the podcasting that I've done with them where they share a lot of their experiences and the challenges that they've had out in the field with some similar circumstances. And it's just really great to open up and expand that network and begin to bring new people onto the podcast that can share their experiences with you. So that's a little bit about my background and how the Antares Society came to be. Over the past few months, I've been getting more and more text messages, comments, questions, emails, DMs from men who are identifying more with an insecure attachment style. I think it's amazing that they're in this place where they're realizing that they've got an issue, they've got a problem, they have a concern. There's something that's preventing them from having the types of relationships that they actually want to have with the people that they want to bring into their life. And I love that they're able to use the language to identify what it is that they're actually going through. I'm anxious. And when we say that I'm anxious, one little flip that I want to give to you today in a mindset shift is that it's not I am anxious, because I am is a state of permanence. It's I feel anxious. I have feelings of anxiousness. And then we can start to dive into that a little bit more and try to figure those things out as to what am I experiencing in this moment. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so we're going to go through what you can expect in the meeting. The first thing is going to be mastering relationships. Now, can we do that in an hour? No, we can't, but we can discuss some of the things that are the drivers and some of the intricacies of interpersonal relationships and why we find them so challenging and why we might be struggling with the relationships we have with our loved ones and our coworkers. The next one is self-love and confidence. Now, a lot of my experiences drove me to that place of trying to figure out self-love. And it was a natural progression for me. I first got a hold of the book called Attached. Many of you may have been given that by an ex-girlfriend or an ex-partner, and they're like, hey, you got this stuff going on. I want you to read this book, dive into it, figure yourself out, because whatever's going on between us right now, it's not working and I don't like it. Now, I came across it just by chance in something that I was struggling with in relationships. And I started reading through it, and you go through it and you're like, wow, that first few chapters, you're like, that's so, and that's my friend, and that's my cousin, that's my uncle, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my mother and father. And you start to identify what an insecure attachment style actually looks like. And then by the end of the book, you find yourself looking at yourself a little bit deeper. You're actually looking in a mirror and realizing that, you know what, there's a lot of things that I do. There's a lot of ways that I show up that probably aren't helpful in my relationships. And I don't know what to do with that. I just know that when this one thing happens, this is the result. This is how I react. This is what I give to other people. This is how I relate. And what we don't have are the tools and the language to identify and say, I'm dysregulated. All of a sudden, when you're dysregulated, you're in the space of going, okay, what does that mean? That means I have these feelings of anxiousness. I'm stressed. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. I'm sad. I'm lonely. I'm depressed. I feel isolated. I feel like something's being pushed onto me. I feel responsible for something that I shouldn't feel responsible for. And so we get overwhelmed, and that's when we hit that place of dysregulation. Now, when we were younger, we were never told how to navigate any of that. And it's primarily because our parents, our caregivers, they didn't have the tools to give that to us because they were dealing with their own experiences, their own challenges, their own problems. And on top of that, they were trying to raise a family and go to work and pay the bills. And these aren't excuses. It's just identifying what was going on in the past and how things came to be for you. The next thing is overcoming our limiting beliefs. We're going to break free from the shackles of self-doubt as we explore strategies to overcome those limiting beliefs that hinder your progress. And I want you to drop some of the limiting beliefs that you have in the chat right now. What are you experiencing? What are you going through? What is something right now that you feel most challenged with, or that you just have a bad perception about? Just drop that in the chat for us. Then we're going to move through accountability and self-mastery. We're going to discover the power of accountability in achieving your goals and witness the transformative impact it can have on your life. And that word accountability for so many of us is such a huge struggle because it means that I did something. I have to be accountable for something. I have to accept something. I have to recognize this thing. I have to take it out of the box. I have to look at it. I have to move it around. I have to manipulate it. I have to see it. And then I have to feel it, process it, and ultimately let it go. And that's the level of accountability that we're going to get in 3 months of group coaching with the Antares Society. The next thing is winning big in 2024. We're going to craft a winning mindset and set the stage for massive success in the year ahead. So I want you to think over the next year, the next 365 days, what do you want to accomplish? What is the number one thing right now that you want to work on? Cam says, we've talked about this before, but the statement, I'm not a complete person, or my partner has to be my whole world or they will leave me. Anthony says, I tend to feel not enough for my partner. And so, Anthony, let's dive into that a little bit deeper. What is it that makes you feel like you're not enough? And when Cam says, my partner has to be my whole world or they will leave me, I feel like that's an expression that so many men are going through in modern dating, in the modern world. We struggle with the fact that we have to show up in all of these ways. We have to be this perfect person. We have to physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, we have to check all of these boxes and be in this position to be everything for everybody all the time. And the reality of that is you can't be all of those things all at the same time for everyone in your life. You can't do it. And in fact, you're going to break yourself in that process trying to figure it out. It's why I'm building the Antares Society group coaching for men, so that you can have a space where you can go and integrate some of these things that are challenging you the most, but do it in a container with a group of men who have your best interest at hand. They want to see you win. This isn't a competition. I'm not doing this because I'm better than you or I'm more capable than you. I'm in this position right now because I noticed something that was going on when I was on the job, and I read the letters and the notes that get left behind from people that choose to leave the planet permanently. And I was trying to figure out, how can I navigate that? How can I deal with that? What am I supposed to do with this information? How can I help other people that are going through this right now? Because I'm getting hit with this stuff on a regular basis, and I'm trying to figure out, what is one thing that I could possibly do? What is one thing that I could say? And then I started to realize that there was more information that I needed. There were things that were missing that I didn't have. And that's how I got to the place of realizing there were skills that I didn't have. And so you work to discover what those are. You hold yourself accountable. You look inward and you begin to notice the things that you haven't built inside of yourself. You don't feel like a complete person. You don't feel like you're whole. You feel like there's this void inside of you and you don't know what to fill it with because nobody ever showed you how to do that. You've spent your entire life doing things for other people, living other people's blueprint for your life, doing the things that they wanted you to do so they can be happy in that moment. But it was only ever in that moment, and it never lasted longer than a couple months. And then you start to figure out that, you know what? Yeah, there's more that I need to learn. And it doesn't matter how many accolades you have. It doesn't matter all the things that you do. You could have been an amazing athlete. You could have done so many amazing things in your life, gotten all the education, become a PhD, you get your doctorate, you do all the things, and you still have this void inside of you that you haven't been the person that you know that you're capable of being because you're living somebody else's life. You're out of integrity with who you want to become. And that's why we're going to get clear on our goals, our values, and our standards. We're going to gain profound clarity on your aspirations, values, and standards, and laying the groundwork for a more purposeful life. We're also going to implement systems, learn effective systems to organize, prepare, and progress in every aspect of your life. Again, I don't have all the answers, but together we can figure those things out. We're going to offer a holistic connection, connecting with your physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual dimensions, fostering an overall well-being that you can be satisfied with. We're going to start building resilience and uncover the secrets to developing resilience. That's equanimity, the calmness in the face of adversity. I want you to think about it right now with all the things that you get presented with throughout the day. What are the things that cause you to step out of alignment with who you are, that cause you to get angry or frustrated or irritated, that push you to that upper limit, that upper threshold that you know that you have, that causes the anxiety, the fear, the frustration in the moment? We want to connect with that and learn to navigate it and accept it as a part of ourselves, and to not feel shame when that pops up. We're also going to work towards connecting to a greater purpose and explore the profound impact of connecting with something greater than yourself. And you'll find out why as we near the end of this webinar, as to why that is. And it's going to stem from the amount of interviews that I've done on the podcast and the connections that I have. So what's the mission for the Antares Society? Our mission is to cultivate a brotherhood that empowers men to navigate, illuminate, and elevate their lives and relationships. It's grounded in self-awareness, accountability, and purpose. We provide a supportive space for personal growth, fostering resilience, meaningful connections, and a shared commitment to becoming the best versions of ourselves. And we do this through exploration, collaboration, and self-awareness, curiosity, and dedication to continuous improvement. We aim to inspire each member to embrace their unique journey and contribute positively to the collective of the Antares Society. My vision for the Antares Society is a world where every man is equipped with the tools, the skills, and the insights to navigate life's challenges, to illuminate his true potential, and elevate those lives of those around him. We aspire to be a beacon of brotherhood, where self-awareness is a guiding light, accountability is an anchor, and the purpose is the fuel for the personal and collective success. Through our shared experiences, unwavering support, and a commitment to lifelong learning, we envision a community of empowered men who positively impact the world, creating ripples of positive change and inspiration for generations to come. The Antares Society is all about building and cultivating relationships with other men who are going to help lift you up. We often use the phrase iron sharpens iron. And what I mean by that is that each one of you, whether you realize it or not, has greatness inside of you, and you just haven't learned to tap into it. You've been playing small because you've been living your life according to somebody else's blueprint. You've done everything that was expected of you according to the life plan that your parents had for you or your caregiver. You've been conditioned to think, act, and feel a particular way, and it's left you feeling sad, angry, and frustrated. Does it really keep us limited? Is this. You end up leaning on coping mechanisms that are maladaptive in nature. What does that look like? We search for things that are outside of us. It's going to be video games, porn, social media, and alcohol as a means of escape from the mundane. How many of you right now are struggling with one of those? Drop it in the chat and let me know. This is a place where you can be vulnerable and you can share some of your experiences with us with each of those things. What is a coping mechanism that you have right now that you know that you would like to stop, or you'd like to move away from, or you know isn't helping you in any way, shape, or form? All the while, you're not participating in your own growth, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. You might feel immature in comparison to your peers as you watch them get married, have kids, watch their kids go off to college, and you're on your second divorce, or you're in a marriage that has left you feeling separated from yourself. You remember the version of you that once enjoyed being a musician. You were tapping into your creativity, excelled in sports, but now you're just a shadow of that person. And this often happens when we enter into long-term relationships, is we move away from the things that made us more us. You move away from the things that make you feel more empowered, more capable, more confident. And we think that we're doing it to please the other person, when in reality, it ends up turning away that other person. They get frustrated with you because you're no longer showing up as the person that they fell in love with, that person that tapped into their creativity, their athleticism, their capabilities. They were driven, they were focused, they knew where they were going, and they knew what they wanted, and they went after it. But that's a funny thing about life. It has a way of wearing us down, and we begin to forget who we are. By the time you hit 30, 40, 50 years old, you're struggling because you're completely disconnected from yourself. And maybe you're one of the lucky ones and you're still married, but you find yourself struggling and saying things like, man, I just can't seem to win. I can't get a break. And it doesn't matter what you say, you're always in the wrong. And you feel like there's just a constant distance being created between you and your partner. And the thing that I want you to recognize is that it's within you to salvage that relationship. We often put it on the other person that you need to change, you need to be different, you need to show up differently, you need to do all of these things, you need to go to therapy. It's always you, and we've missed out completely on the language of a shared mission and vision. Nobody's leading the relationship. Each person is looking to the other person to do exactly that. The best example I have is every time you ask your partner, where do you want to go to dinner? And my question to you is, why are you asking? You don't have to ask. Or you can just say, hey, this is what I had planned. I already made reservations. Are you down? Are you game? Are we going? And they might say, no, I don't want to go there. And then you come up with a second option, and that's totally fine. But at least you have an answer. You're being decisive. You're showing up and you're leading in the relationship. And I know that's a stupid example, and I understand how oversimplified that actually is. But if you hop on TikTok and social media, you'll quickly realize that's still one of the biggest issues that young men especially are facing, is the fact that they're just indecisive. They don't know what they want. They have no plan or purpose. They don't know where they're going, what they're doing, or why they're doing it. They can't even make a decision on where to go to dinner. And it's one of those things that more often than not, your partner doesn't want to think about that. They want you to provide an experience. And the question is, are you willing to do that? Are you capable of doing that? And this is also why we talk so much about attachment styles, because it allows us to see the parts of ourselves that we often ignore, that we push down, that we shame, blame, and ultimately feel so much guilt over. We feel like it's truly our fault. And I want you to know that when we talk about attachment styles, it was something that was decided before you were even born. It was something that you experienced in the womb. It's something that later on, from 0 to 5 years old, is when your attachment style is being cultivated. You never had a choice. But what you do have a choice over is how you adapt now in the present moment to the relationships that you have and how you interact with other people, how you show up, and how you make other people feel. And again, it's why I've gotten to the point where we talk about self-love so much, because that's really what so much of this depends on. Are you able to see and look at yourself in the mirror and to love yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? Now, over time, we learn to attune to the parts or to process the experiences and emotions that we've been having. We never learned how to do that. Nobody ever showed us. We didn't know what it looked like, because more often than not, you experienced a parent or a caregiver that had big emotions, or they gave you a big experience, or they completely pulled away. They shut down because they were going through their own challenges and experiences at the time. And so we learn this behavior of, when this one thing happens, that's when you pull away and you distance yourself and you shut down and you give the silent treatment. Or when this one thing happens, that's when you double down and you chase and you go after and you bring them towards you so you don't lose that relationship. And I know all this stuff because so many of you message me every day and you share some of the most intimate details with me about your life and your experiences. And I want to thank you for trusting me with that information and for putting that out there. I've even had people now reach out that they're third party, they have their own businesses, and they're telling me that my client, they observed your content, they've been involved in your content, and they had this massive breakthrough, this massive experience in their lives that shifted them into a new direction in their life because of what you've been posting, because of how you show up, because of the captions that you write and the podcast that you do and the people that you bring on. And then I started looking at the testimonials that I have on Facebook regarding the same thing. And it's amazing to me to know that a year ago, this didn't really exist. I didn't really have a platform. My course was doing okay. And I didn't really have a podcast. And over the past 365 days, because of people exactly like you, I've been able to create a platform that allows people to come and share their experiences with us and their knowledge. And so we learn from each other. We make each other better when we do this. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself right now, and I think these are important, is what's next for me? I've forgotten who I am. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing, or why I'm doing it. I want you to ask yourself, who am I? And drop it in the chat. Who is it that you think that you are? This is one of those things, it's introspective. It allows you to zoom out for a second and to see yourself from a third-party perspective. So don't just type away. I'm going to give it a couple seconds for you guys to articulate who you think you are. And if you want to go as far as to put why, you can drop that in the chat as well. Cam says, my therapist is on board with this. She's impressed with the content and loves the approach that you take. That's awesome. I love that. Cam also says, I've been using the gym as a coping mechanism. It's a healthier choice, but I use it as an excuse to withdraw from the world. And how many of you can identify with that? I know I can. I created a home gym for exactly that reason. It gives me the opportunity to escape. It's that one place that I can go to where nobody can bother me, where stress just gets pushed to the side and I don't really think about it. And you throw your music on, or you're doing one of your videos. I do a lot of Beachbody stuff. I'm not saying go do that, but I like the way that they produce their stuff and it works well for me. But it's a place of solitude and one where you can challenge yourself, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But the problem is we use it as a crutch, as an escape, as a coping mechanism, and not as it was intended, which is to enhance and improve our lives. But there is an unintended consequence of that when you do those things, when you're somebody who is connected with the gym or working out or going or rucking every day like I do. If you're unfamiliar with rucking, I throw a 30-pound weight on my back and I just go 6 to 12 miles. Sometimes it's with music, sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not. And it's just a way for me to tap in to my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing. And you'd be surprised what happens when you get out and you go for that walk and you give yourself that time and you disconnect from technology and you keep on walking. You start to pick your head up. When was the last time you guys picked your head up when you were walking? I see this all the time and I was guilty of it. So often I put my head down and I focus on the pavement in front of me. And I never pick my head up enough to see the horizon line. And when that happens, you give yourself a completely different experience. You find that you're more connected, that you're not escaping. You're taking everything in. You're grounding with the environment and you're allowing it to change you. You're allowing it to impact you. And so a consequence of that, when you allow it to soak in, when you allow yourself to ground in nature, is you become more calm, at least for a little while. And when you focus on nasal breathing in and out of your nose, you'll start to realize that you move from your sympathetic activated state into your parasympathetic of rest and relaxation. And what an amazing place that is if you've never experienced it, to be able to shift from that activated state. And for a long time, I was living in that activated state. And now I spend a little bit more time in the parasympathetic, that rest and relaxation. But again, it's not perfect. And nobody's going to live in the parasympathetic state. Life is stressful. Life is hard. Life is difficult. But there are ways for us to build resilience to and become anti-fragile to these experiences. So Cam says, I am a veteran, a co-parent, and a gym rat. Because that's Pretty much the only things that I do, but that's changing. That second part there, but that's changing, is so important because you're more than a veteran. You're more than a co-parent. You're more than just a gym rat. There's so many more dimensions to you that you haven't tapped into yet. Again, it's that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we don't dive enough into self-education to allow ourselves to expand on the mental. We don't spend enough time there. And so I would encourage you, go check out all the free content that is out there and dive into self-education and know that it's okay to do that. It's not only okay, it's mandatory. If you're not educating yourself on a daily basis on a new topic or subject or something that you're at least interested in, you're missing out. And you're going to find that you struggle in a lot of other ways because you don't have much to talk about other than the 3 experiences that you give yourself in a day. And then you lose dimension and you're not as interesting. And so these are things that you can help yourself through self-education. And then you can take this information and deploy it in real time in your life. I think that's what so many people forget. We expect to go to therapy. We expect to get a coach. We expect to find a mentor. We expect to get some education. And in doing all of that all these amazing things are going to happen. But it's never just one thing. It's always multiple things. And you have to do it consistently over a long period of time to see the results from the work that you have to put into yourself. But we want that easy button. We just want to smash it and move on. We want to hit that easy button and find that place that just gives us everything that we've ever asked for. And unfortunately, that's just not how the world works. Cam says, went to church today thanks to the person that introduced me to your content. That's awesome. And we'll get to that in a second. But let's go back to who am I? I want you to self-reflect and spend time in introspection. You should be doing this daily. Not answering this particular question, but finding questions that you want to answer that are going to allow you to dive into a little bit more self-reflection. I want you to consider your values, your beliefs, your strengths, and your weaknesses. I want you to reflect on your experiences, both positive and negative, and consider how they've shaped you. All too often, we see ourselves as a victim of our circumstances, the things that happened in our past that now cause us to live continually in the past. You wake up each and every morning and your brain kicks off with the same thoughts that you started the day before, a year before, 5 years before. You're still living in the past. You wake up and you go automatic into the argument that you were having with your friend or your spouse or a coworker or your boss. And that's where you live. You're not in the present. Or you time travel to the future and you put yourself in that place of, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get this thing. I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be happy when I get that money. But all you ever have is right now. And so you have to figure out ways to be happy now. And we do this by figuring ourselves out, by understanding who we are, where we're going, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. By reflecting on those past experiences, not to relive them, but to see what we can extract from them. What information can I pull from this? And then how can I deploy it in my life right now? How can I use it to shape my experiences to make them better? To prevent or mitigate some of the things that I experienced in the past, some of those challenges that I don't want to repeat. Can I use that information to stop that from happening, to prevent it? Number 2 is your core values. Identify what your core values are, what principles guide your decisions and your actions. Consider what matters most to you in various aspects of life, such as relationships, career, and personal development. How many of you are actually going through personal development right now? Drop a book that you've read recently and when you read it. For so many of you, you haven't read a book in a year, maybe 5 years. And you have to put yourself in the place where you're taking in new and different information because it sharpens you, it hones you, it makes you better, it gives you a better vocabulary. It allows you to integrate yourself into groups better and to have better conversations with people that you're expected to have conversation with. Number 3 is to understand your passions and interests. Know what they are and actually do them. What is it that brings you joy in those experiences? Have you ever experienced joy? I know for me, that was probably one of my greatest challenges because I hadn't witnessed it. I had never seen true joy or to be elated or just happy in the moment. And so I had to teach myself joy, how to experience it, what it looked like. And it's brief and it's fleeting, it's short lived. You don't get to carry that with you all the time, but you can only get there when you're present. You have to be present in this moment to find joy, to find and accept joy, to see it in your environment and all the things that you're experiencing. But we spend so much time in that activated state, and we don't spend enough time in the parasympathetic to actually pull ourselves into the moment and say, wow, look at that. It can be a sunrise. It can be stepping onto the beach and just allowing yourself again to ground in nature and give yourself that experience. What are some hobbies and pursuits that you would like to pursue? What are things that you've been putting off that you would like to dive back into and give yourself a chance to have those experiences again? Understanding your roles and identities, acknowledge the different roles that you play in life, such as friend, family member, professional, hobbyist, and consider how each of these roles contribute to your sense of identity, who you are, right? I'll say the phrase again. It's who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. Do you know your personal strengths and weaknesses? Take the time to identify them and celebrate them. Are you able to celebrate your wins and the experiences that you have throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year? Do you allow yourself to experience that, to know that you did a good job, not because somebody told you did a good job, but you did a good job because that's who you are, because that's what you embody. Those are your standards that you set for yourself. You know that when you do a job, you're doing it already to the best of your ability. You're not cutting corners. And so you can take pride in that and you can celebrate that. And if you're not that person right now, this isn't to shame you or to blame you or to make you feel guilt. It's an acknowledgement of where we can improve, where we can do just a little bit better each day. Number 6 are, what are your life goals and aspirations? Define your short and long-term goals. What do you aspire to achieve in all the different aspects of your life? And consider how your goals align with your values and contribute to your sense of purpose. And for so many of us, this is where we struggle. You're in a particular career path. You've had this particular experience. It's pretty much pre-planned as far as you can go. And we think that career and all of those things are our purpose. But what happens when you tap out? When you get to the place where you can't travel any further? You've hit the limit, the upper limit of this particular role. What do you do next? Is your purpose now to just sit and wait until retirement? And then what? And so your purpose extends beyond your career and the expectations of your career. And this is why we talk so much about hobbies and doing things in life that tap into your creativity. Now, not everybody has that high level of creativity, and you don't have to. You just have to find something that you enjoy doing. It can be rock climbing. It can be fossil hunting. But have something that you enjoy so much that you want to learn about it. You want to experience it. You want to embody it. You want to live in it. You want to tell people about it. Get excited about something and then start sharing that with people who want to hear about it. It's one of those things with social media, and everybody talks about gaining and getting a particular audience and, oh, it's so difficult. And to some degree it is, but it's because you don't know who you're serving. And that's why you struggle with social media. You don't know who you're serving. But when you figure that out and you recognize who you can help and how you can help, or you recognize that information that you're passionate about, there's another 200,000 people that share that same interest, and they would love to hear your thoughts on it. So for those of you who would want to join and get on social media and share your experiences with other people, I encourage you to do just that. because I promise you there's an audience waiting for you to hear what you have to say. Number 8 is mindfulness and present moment. You want to get into the practice of being in the present moment, regardless of your circumstances. And this is where people get most challenged by this. My circumstances are pretty bad. Now what? And the thing is, so many of you, you've had some pretty terrible circumstances in your life. So have I. We don't get to escape that. And it's also not a competition. But what you choose in the moment is always up to you. And that's why we develop the skills of resilience. We hone that skill. We do breath work. We work on emotional regulation. We figure these things out so that you are anti-fragile, so that you can step into any given circumstance at any time and recognize that, yeah, right now this is pretty tough, but I've been through tough things before and I'll continue to make it through those tough things because that's what I do. You embody that about yourself and you become the rock that everyone around you needs you to be in those tough situations. And it doesn't mean that you don't depend on other people or to let your guard down and to step into a place of vulnerability with the people around you. But you step into that when you're comfortable, when you have trust, when you know that you can do that with those people. You don't give that away so freely. Number 9 is to seek feedback. This is a little tough, but when you ask people about you, they'll tell you. And you'll be like, "Oh no, give me an honest answer. What do you think of me?" They'll be nice at first, and then it's no. I'm asking because I genuinely want to know. You don't go ask a million people, but maybe the top 3 people that are closest to you. You have a conversation. Tell me about me. Tell me about your experience of me, and allow them to be honest and don't take it personally. Because again, they don't have the full picture. They don't know what's going on in your head. They don't know your experiences. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know your hopes, dreams, and desires. I don't care if they have known you your entire life. I don't care if they gave birth to you. They don't know your personal experiences. They don't know what's in your head. So they can only ever tell you about you from their perspective. And so we take it with a grain of salt, but you can begin to ask yourself, are these things true? Do I need to take any of this to heart? Is there something here that I can use? Is there something here that I can learn from? And so don't be afraid to ask the people that are closest to you about you. And then number 10 is to embrace growth. Understand that your sense of self is dynamic and it evolves over time, and it's okay for it to evolve over time. I was listening to a podcast not that long ago, and the statement was made that you hold yourself in a position right now and you live in a mental prison from something that occurred a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And you put yourself in this place and you stay there because you think that's where you're supposed to be. You don't realize that those were circumstances, and those circumstances are in the past. And the best that you can do right now in this moment to honor those circumstances is to do better. Do better than you did before. Be willing to change. Be willing to navigate life a little bit differently. Be willing to use that information and deploy it in real time to become a better version of yourself for the people that are in your life. Some people in the past, they may not have appreciated you for who you are as a person, and you may have deserved it. But here you are, it's 2024. And now what are you going to do with that information? Are you going to continue to live in that state of mind, to be entrapped in your own mental prison? Are you going to begin to make a shift and move out of that experience and recognize that, you know what? I'm no longer that person, but I can also recognize some of my deficits. I can recognize there's skills that I need to learn, that I need to hone, that I need to do better. And I just don't have them right now, but with some work and some dedication, some consistency and support, then I can begin to move beyond that. And I know it's hard because there's always going to be somebody sitting right behind you to remind you of who you've always been. You're never going to change. You can't do it. You're not good enough. You're not capable. This is who you've always been. You're never going to be any better. I don't know who the hell you think you are. And you're going to hear that from the people that are closest to you. And the only thing that you can do is to take it, accept it, recognize it, acknowledge it, dissect it, ask yourself if it's true, and then ask yourself, how can I use this? How can I learn from it? How can I grow? And then you change the behavior. And that's within your capability to do that. You just don't know that it is, because it's so much easier to sit in this negative space, to sit in the mental prison and say, you know what? I'm just going to shut everybody out. I don't care anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. Leave me alone. And then you're going to spend the next 50 years like that. And it's going to be pretty damn unfulfilling. And so you have to ask yourself, is that how you want to spend the rest? When you answer the ever-evolving question of who I am, this takes you into a place of self-discovery, self-love, and making yourself a priority again, or maybe for the first time. All too often, you sacrifice who you are, you sacrifice your self-care at the cost of your overall health and fitness. This is when you find yourself in that place of feeling like you can't win or you need some sort of break. You find yourself praying, dear God, just give me a break. Give me something. But when you begin to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and you begin to fill those cups each day, there's compounding interest on all of that. And one of the hardest mindset shifts is me before you. People don't like this. Me before you. It might mean that you got to get up a little bit earlier to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and begin to fill each of those cups each day in the best way that you know how. Might have to get up a little bit earlier. You might have to stay awake a little bit later to knock some of these things out and to make these things happen in your life so that you can have a fulfilled life, so that you can be that whole person that you think is missing, but you're already a whole person. You just don't feel whole. You always have been, you always will be. You were born with everything you need. But what you haven't learned is to tap into who you really are and what you're about. You haven't tapped into loving yourself enough to recognize what's true about you and what isn't true about you. Because again, you only ever see it from the other person's perspective. So me before you is a mantra that you can live by. And all it means is that you're going to get up a little bit earlier. You're not saying you're not going to take care of all the other duties that you have. This is in addition to. It's in addition to. So you're adding on to the things that you're already doing. But you're going to be consistent and you're going to show up for yourself, and you're going to do it because you know that you need to do it. And you're going to do it because you know that everybody is watching you. And I'm not telling you that you have to care what everybody else is thinking about you, but you do have to care enough about yourself to get these things done and to do it consistently, to recognize that you are worthy of doing those things, and to understand that compounding interest over time is going to continue to build over the years and over the decades. And the people that are watching you, you're going to show them what is possible for them. And the people that tell you right now that you're too much, I can't handle this, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're going to come to you and they're going to say, wow, I can't believe how much you've changed. You have inspired me to go and do this other thing in my life because you showed me what was possible for you. You went out and did all of these things. You changed your life. You became a different person. You got stronger physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You started living your life differently. I didn't know that was possible. And so you never know who you're inspiring out in the real world, but you're also showing them what it means to be accountable to you. Like I said, it's so easy to just blame everything outside of you and to blame other people for your experiences. But at what point do we take accountability for ourselves and acknowledge that you're 50% of pretty much everything you're going through? That there's a chain of events that occurred because of decisions that you made and decisions that you didn't make because you were too afraid to make them, or you passed on making it because you wanted somebody else to make the decision for you. And this is why we step into that leadership role and learning to lead ourselves in all of those different areas. You have to learn to trust yourself and to know that you have got your back. You are so good with you that when somebody presents you with something outside of you, that you don't look at that and take it personally and have it impact you so deeply that you feel like everything in your life is being challenged and you start to not know who you are. And we get to the place where we can say, you know what? No, actually, I disagree with you. I can see why you might think that. You have enough self-awareness to zoom out and look at the situation for what it is and tell the other person, no, you know what? I can see how you would think that. If I was you, I can understand. But that's not how I feel. That's not my experience. That's not what I'm going through. That's not what I'm feeling. That's what you're feeling. And it's okay for you to feel that. And we might be at an impasse, and that's okay. But when you're so good with you, you don't allow other people to tell you who you are. Like I said before, you take it with a grain of salt, you zoom out, you take what they say, you look at it, you dissect it, you evaluate it, and then you can give it back to them and say, yeah, no, I don't agree. Or maybe you do agree. And now you've learned something about yourself that you can use in the future. And right about now, you guys might be saying, man, Jason, I don't know that I have the time to do all of these things. That's usually the first thing that people say is, I just don't have the time to put into myself, to go to the gym, to make things happen, to make dinner, to go to the grocery store, to do all the things that I know that I should be doing. And you put yourself in this place of avoidance, and then it builds up and it creates all this anxiety in your life because we're not acknowledging and going after the things that we know that we should be doing on a daily basis. We put it off. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day. A week later, 2 weeks later, a month later comes and you still haven't done it. And you're in that place where you're struggling. And it's because you're not holding yourself accountable. And believe me, I know what it's like to work 16 hours a day, to sleep for 5 or 6 hours, get up and have to go back to the job. I understand that. I lived it. And it also put me in the hospital. I ended up with blood pressure that was 200 over 100. And it was right at the tail end of 2019, moving into 2020. And we all know what 2020 was like. So it's like you end 2019 with a health scare. You think you're having a heart attack. And I was fit. I was working out. I was in great shape. But for whatever reason, there were other things that were going on in my life. And I attribute it more to the benefits of sleep and having not gotten sleep. I worked a disgusting amount of overtime and overextended myself to a high degree because I was avoiding so many other things in my life. I just didn't know that's what I was doing. Because in my mind, it's, oh, yeah, I'll take the overtime. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, not a problem. And you just say yes to everything. You say yes to it because what else am I going to do? That's fine. It's not a big deal. And then you find that you overextend yourself. And I ended up on medication for a little bit. And that was frustrating for me because you hit that place where it's, shoot, people that get put on this, am I doing this forever now? Is this my life? I don't want that for me. That's great for other people, but I didn't want that for me. And so I started making different decisions and I started showing up in different ways. And that's how Take a Walk with Me was actually born. In the very beginning, I was only walking 2 miles and I hated it and I didn't want to do it. I wanted nothing to do with walking. Didn't even have a weighted vest on. I would take the dog for a walk and do what I needed to do for her. But when it came to me, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to put the effort in. I didn't want to put the mileage down. And I had already done a half marathon. So why is it that I'm struggling with trying to get out and go for a walk, a 2-mile walk? Why is that so hard for me? And there was a lot of resistance to it. And it's just because I had all these other things that were going on in my head that I hadn't been dealing with. And that procrastination, that barrier, that wall was really hard for me to overcome in that moment, but I forced myself to do it. And so I started pushing, and that 2 miles turned into 6 to 12 miles a day with a 30-pound rucksack on my back. Now, 30 pounds might not sound like a lot, but put it on and walk 12 miles and then tell me you don't feel it. There's also a weird thing that happens when you start doing that. You got the weight on your shoulders and you're carrying it. And I envision all my stress, my pain, my anger, my frustration, my irritation, my sadness. I'm carrying that with me. I'm going through. I'm getting miles down on the pavement. I'm looking out at the horizon. I'm nasal breathing in and out through my nose. I'm focusing on not looking at the letters on the houses and the numbers, because if I see it, I have to say it. And that was part of the thing with rumination for me, was if I see it, I have to say it. And now I'm talking about it. Now I'm reading all these things out. And so I would focus on not reading the numbers. And it almost became like a meditation where I would get in the zone and I would just focus on the horizon and focus on my breathing and knock out the miles. And at the end of which, and over a long period of time, I started to feel freaking amazing. And then my posture improved. And then my back started to feel better. And then my abs and my lower body started to feel stronger. When you go to bend down and pick something up, you don't realize the impact that has. And so for those of you who are still here, tell me about something that you're struggling with right now that you would like to overcome in your life. As you guys are putting that in the chat, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Antares Society and what we're going to be doing. The Antares Society is a men's group. It's going to be subject to change over time based on the needs of the group. The one thing that I want you to recognize is that you're not an island and you're not meant to do all of this alone. And I know that so many of us have put ourselves in the position where we are alone, we are isolated, and it doesn't have to be that way. And it's hard because some of the people that are closest to us, they're no longer with us. And then so many others have dispersed all over the country for jobs, for family. And so we don't connect as often as we would like. And so that's the benefit of doing group coaching with men who have a similar mission and vision for their lives, that they want to do better. They want to have something impactful in their lives that are going to help them be a better person, to be more capable and to feel more competent. And one of the greatest benefits is that you get to expand your network and learn valuable skills from one another, because each one of you has a valuable skill that you haven't tapped into yet. You don't know that it exists within you. It's there. It's always been there. You just don't know that it's there. And so we're going to work on improving social skills, communication skills, and interpersonal skills in relationships. How are we going to do that? There's going to be a weekly live group coaching session inside of Kajabi. We're going to have structured discussions on key topics, challenges, and goal setting. We're going to have group exercises. We're going to have modules covering specific aspects of personal and professional development. These exercises are used to reinforce learning and encourage group participation. The overall benefit is that it's a collective learning experience and support within a group's coaching setting. We're going to have peer learning circles where you can interact with one another during the exercises. And you'll have a regular interaction with other experienced coaches in the industry. If you guys have seen the podcast, then you know that my network is expanding. And as it expands, I'm going to continue to ask people to share their time with us and to be a part of the group. It's a huge commitment for me. There's a lot of time that goes into preparing and cultivating the lesson plan for this. So I'm going to do it twice a year. So if you guys are interested, drop it in the chat. Let me know. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them now in the chat. Cam says, I'm ready to build the skills and tools to live a full life and be my best self for my romantic partner. Paid my bill today. Awesome. Anthony says, I'm struggling with letting go of my past relationship. It ended out of nowhere and really messed me up. And I'm struggling with believing in myself as I move forward and pursue the things that I want for my life. And so additional questions that I would ask there is, what is the roadblock that keeps you from believing in yourself? What's the roadblock there for you? Cam says, might have to use my 40 plus vacation days I've racked up to do these things. Sounds like a good use of them. Grocery pickup and meal prepping is the best thing ever. I agree. I want to thank you guys for being here today, for sharing your time with me, and for being supportive of the content. If now's not the right time for coaching for you guys, I completely understand. All I would ask is that you continue to share the content with your friends, and let's get as many people to the Antares Society Instagram as we possibly can. With that, I just want to say thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you again next time. Take it easy, guys.